Most content doesn't convert because it was never designed to. It was built for likes and not decisions. And that's exactly why your content might be getting attention, but not sales. It's frustrating. I get it, because your content should be making you money every single week. And if it's not, you're operating with a broken strategy. So here's the truth that most people won't tell you. Most content is made for followers and not buyers. It entertains, it pleases the algorithm, but it doesn't spark desire. It doesn't build clarity, and it doesn't lead to hell yes decisions, because content isn't king. The strategy behind your content is. So if you're tired of chasing views and you're burnt out from the content treadmill, if you're sick of pumping out reels, posts, and videos, just trying to stay relevant, and you're wondering why your offers still aren't flying off the shelves, this is your permission slip to stop doing more. You're not an influencer, you're a business, and you don't need more eyeballs, you need more yeses. Your best content will not require you to go viral when you make this shift, because it will quietly and consistently bring in premium buyers every week. That's what bingeable content does. It builds momentum, it drives clarity, it gets people to binge their way to buying like it's their favorite all-you-can-eat buffet, and it gets your audience to sell themselves before you ever have to pitch. So in today's episode, I'm showing you how to build a bingeable content strategy, one that turns your content into your most powerful sales asset without posting daily, without going viral, without relying on algorithms. So let's dive in. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. I'm so excited to have you here today. You guys know I geek out talking about bingeable strategies and how we use the Netflix effect. So last week, we talked about clarity pre-selling. So let's backtrack for a minute. We talked about why that was so important to answering this concept of influencing decisions without pressure. And it's really important because that's kind of the fundamentals to what I'm going to share with you here today, so that you can understand how to get your best buyers who are primed and ready to make the easiest decision possible. So I thought, what better way to keep this train moving than to actually show you how we apply this inside of our weekly content strategy. So let's get real. If you're creating content consistently, you're probably not doing it just to get views, right? You want your content to do the heavy lifting for you. You want it to bring in sales while you sleep. You want to attract the right clients who already see the value before they ever get into a sales conversation with you. And you want to do all of that without needing to post 24/7 like you're trying to be the next Alex Hormozi. You want a simple and repeatable strategy that works, one that's built for buyers and not looky-loos. And you want to be able to do all this while spending less time in that content creation and more time closing deals, serving clients, and actually living your damn life. But right now, let's be real. Your content marketing strategy may have left you in a chase. So you keep showing up, you keep creating more, but nothing seems to compound. You're just putting in all this effort and it's slow to build momentum. And even when someone does say, I've been watching your content for a while, it doesn't easily turn into, I'm ready to buy right now. And that's what creates this dangerous pattern, right? You start to question your offers. You wonder if you need to lower your prices. You blame visibility or the algorithm, when in reality, it's not about being seen more. It's about knowing how to tap into a high intent algorithm where the right buyers who want to buy are being brought into your world. And here's where most content strategies go wrong. They're rooted in influencer marketing. So you're told to create this content that grabs attention, that hooks, the trends, the aesthetics, the short form, everything, right? It's content that's designed to go viral, not to drive decisions. And we see this in the top 3 common myths that are sold all around content strategy, okay? Number 1, more content equals more sales. And I get it. You've probably been told that the more content you create, the more likely you are to make sales. And it's this myth that's being pushed hard by people who are more concerned with getting you to produce more than actually understanding what drives the actual conversions. So the reality is content saturation doesn't make the right impact. In fact, it's actually going to dilute your messaging and it's going to create more confusion when done wrong. So content for the sake of content often only leads to burnout, and it doesn't build trust or convert high value clients. So the second myth is that you need to be able to go viral in order to succeed. So this one's huge. Going viral sounds so amazing, but the reality is Viral content doesn't guarantee sales, and quite the opposite. When was the last time that you went viral and it led to a flood of clients? I know I've had clients who have gone viral and it hasn't produced the results they want. I've also had clients who've come to me and said, listen, I have constant viral content. I have tons of followers. I'm doing all the things that quote unquote should work, and it doesn't. Because the truth is, viral content often attracts and is built for the wrong audience, for the wrong reasons, right? It can bring wide-reaching attention, but it's not the right kind, right? It's not the right type of people who actually lead to buying from you. And it makes sense, right? Because what makes something viral is that a lot of people come in and see that as valuable. But when you're saying something that is meant for very specific buyers, it's not meant to go viral. You don't want a million people to see it because it's likely not speaking to the right type of people to begin with. And the third and final myth is that you need omnipresence to win. I hear this everywhere from every marketing agency, every guru, every coach out there, where all these people are being taught that the more platforms you're on, the more eyeballs you get, and that's going to lead to somehow, some way, more sales. So you're going to hire that team. You're going to pump out 20 plus pieces of content across 5 different platforms. But let's get real. If your content isn't working on one platform, multiplying it across 5 isn't going to magically fix it. Because more visibility doesn't solve a broken strategy. So all of these strategies are all built around one core belief, that attention equals success. And here's the problem. Attention doesn't equal action. It doesn't mean that a belief has been built. It doesn't mean that desire or intent has been created. And it doesn't even mean that someone wants to buy from you. All it means is that you got someone to pause for a second, that you grabbed their attention for a short period of time. And there's a huge difference behind content that's built for attention and content built for conversion. So let's break it down. I'm going to start with explaining attention-based content and what it looks like, okay? So attention-based content looks like this. You see those entertaining reels with trending audios, surface level tips and 60-second how-tos, this focus on visibility and not value depth, and content that's motivating, inspiring, and it focuses on getting the masses to chime in. That's why I say virality isn't what you think it is. It's all chasing attention and eyeballs, and it's not attracting buyers. And it usually leads to lots of views and likes, little to no buying behavior, a feeling of what the hell, why is this not working? Now, on the flip side is decision-based content, right? This instead creates belief. It's not just awareness, it builds desire and depth, not dopamine. And it gets your audience saying, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need, by speaking to their highest value desires in a way that's going to mirror their natural decision process. So let me give you an example. Every morning that I get to drive my daughter to school, I get to pass by the same 5 billboards, right? Even though I've seen those billboards a million times, I've even looked up at them, I've read them, I cannot for the life of me right now remember what the hell they said. I can't even remember them a few hours later, nonetheless, a few miles later. Sure, hundreds of thousands of people drive by those billboards every single day, but the impact of that marketing is very short-lived. Once they're 10 miles up the freeway, they've completely forgotten about it. That's attention-based content. It grabs you for a second, but it doesn't create anything lasting. So the typical attention-based strategies are just like you trying to create a billboard. Sure, you get this quick glimpse from people, some views, and maybe even a like, but you're not creating anything that sticks with people. You're just another ad on the side of the road, quickly forgotten the moment that your audience moves on to the next distraction, because attention isn't the same as action. Attention does not equal action. So I want you to think about this. You may create content that gets hundreds or maybe even thousands of people looking at your content, but how many of them actually remember it? How many of them are coming back to take action? That's the reality of attention-based content. It's flashy, it's eye-catching, but it doesn't actually create conversions. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the basis of creating a decision-based content strategy. Now, on the flip side, let's contrast that with the last time that you read a book. One of those ones that you cannot put down. You know what I'm talking about, right? You're not just skimming through it. You're like so hooked on it that you stay up late till like 3 a.m. reading it. Your eyes are bleary. You cannot stop thinking about it the next day. You cannot wait to sit back down and start reading again. You tell a friend who tells a friend who tells a friend about how they have to read it, right? That's decision-based content. It pulls people in. It holds their attention. It builds belief. It creates this feeling of connection. It doesn't just get them to pause. It gets them to decide. It gets them to start feeling something deeper. That's the core difference between content that gets attention and content that converts, because the right content strategy is built for the right outcome, decisions, and not attention. So, how do we drive those decisions, right? It's not through more posts or higher views or louder hooks. It's by creating a content experience that mirrors how real decisions are made in the brain. And the reality is, we want to believe that people make decisions based on logic, but more often they're a result of momentum. So the more momentum somebody has, emotionally, mentally, energetically, the easier it is to get them to say yes. So here's the thing. Most content gets in the way of decisions. I want you to think about that. Most content gets in the way of decisions. It's scattered. It doesn't build momentum. It makes people jump through hoops and dig through more answers across all the platforms, right? Because the focus was always on attention. So now that we understand that it's not about attention, I want you to realize that bingeable content does the exact opposite. What it does is it focuses on compounding decisions. This is where bingeability, this natural process we all want to go through, that we all experience when we are hooked on something, becomes your greatest asset. Because what it does is it builds cognitive momentum with every piece of content your lead consumes. So each episode, each piece of content they see, each layer is stacking on top of the next, making that final decision not feel pressured, but instead feel inevitable. Because it's not about more time or more touch points. It's about how you use those touch points and time to create continuous motion towards a clear decision. This is where our OneTouch content system comes in. So let's break it down. Instead of posting random disconnected ideas that leave your audience constantly trying to catch up, I mean, everywhere you look right now, you see people talking about how to create more content in a day. You see people talking about another content planner or a content calendar, something that's meant to help you create more content, right? But the thing about this is our focus on content is built with purpose and direction. So what we want to do is drive a decision, and we want to do that in a way that is easy for them, hence the bingeable process. So here's how we do it. We start with a demand angle that aligns with what your audience actually desires. Then we break it down and deliver it in a small bite-sized pieces that all build upon each other. So the key here is compounding. With every piece of content your lead is consuming, they're making a micro decision. And those small decisions lead them to their final big decision of working with you. So this process is bingeable because each piece feeds to the next, creating this unstoppable momentum that keeps your leads moving forward. So I want you to think about it this way. One demand angle, 5 bingeable pieces of content equals 1 touch buying. That's the power of decision-driven content. So let's break it down. We start with demand angles. So what does your audience actually truly want? What is their deepest desires that they're driven by? This becomes the foundation of your content. So I want you to think about it this way. I use this example all the time. It's the example of Nike shoes, where I say everyone buys Nike shoes for slightly different reasons. They're motivated to make that purchasing decision for a slightly different decision. So I might buy them because I feel like they're going to make me run faster. My daughter buys them because she believes that they're a social status. And my son buys them because they're durable. Those are all different desires that motivate and fuel our buying decisions. So I want you to think about it this way. Your buyers absolutely already want to buy. The challenge is they're not sure if your solution meets their specific needs and desires. That's where demand angles come in. Instead of creating content based on what we think our buyers want, we flip the script and we build content around what we actually desire, what actually drives them and motivates them to make a buying decision. So this makes your content far more compelling, and it aligns with what drives decision making, okay? That's the first step of the process. So the second piece of the puzzle is actually breaking all of that down through your content. So now that your demand angle is set, you want to think about the demand angle as what actually informs your content strategy, okay? Now, each piece of content is designed to create small micro decisions. Each piece of content builds trust. It primes their brain. It gets them ready to make a decision in a way that feels really freaking good and really freaking easy. So each piece of content in that 5-day period acts meticulously to deepen their understanding and guide them towards a decision. So let me give you an example so you can see it all put together. So let's say we take the demand angle of how to scale your business without burning out. That's an angle that I'm using as a way to be able to drive to specific people. Now, the 5 pieces of content look like this. The first one is to plant a seed. The goal here is that we're drawing buyers in by introducing the concept that gets them to start thinking about something new and valuable. The second piece of content focuses on shifting a belief. So what we're doing there is the concept behind this is we want to start getting them to start seeing why their current approach isn't working and why it's time for a change. We talked about this last week with the clarity pre-selling, why it's so important to create a clean slate before we ask them to start thinking differently, because if their brain is so heavy and so overwhelmed with all the things they have, they're not going to be able to think differently. So we want them to get there. So the belief shift is only focused on that piece of the puzzle. Now, the next piece is to guide them through the entire belief process. So in our case, this is episodic content. What we're doing here is taking you through a step-by-step process of the entire belief transformation, so that what we're doing here is ensuring that you understand it fully, right? All of the pieces, and you can grasp this news perspective. Now, after that is what we call reinforcing the beliefs. So what this does is it circles back so that we reinforce that understanding, ensuring that you really understand the big picture and see how it all starts to fit together. Now, last but not least is what I call connecting that desired outcome to your solution. So what we're doing there is we're tying the goal to your approach in a way that's clear and compelling. And we use a very direct selling approach to do this. So the decision is very crystal clear. It's very linear. Okay. This is so freaking powerful because we're connecting 2 huge pieces of the puzzle that are built around creating decisions. Now, the last and final piece is that there's this like outcome that comes from it, which are micro decisions, right? The micro decisions are what lead to the final decision. So each piece of content is nudging your lead closer to a decision. So they don't have to wrestle with what to do. They're already on that pathway because they're making these small micro decisions the way all along the way that naturally lead them to saying a yes. So that's where bingeability comes into play, where they can binge their way through that process. So you see how different this is. It's not just about creating content that gets attention. It's about guiding your audience towards bingeable decisions. So as they're going through your content, the concept compounds, the micro decisions add up, and the final decision to work with you feels completely inevitable. That's ultimately the goal behind everything we do, right? See, you don't need to go viral. You don't need to constantly create endless amounts of content, and you don't need months to chase or more touch points. These are all bullshit excuses that have been used. All you need is to accelerate the way that people make decisions. And you do that by creating a bingeable journey that compels decisions. This is the power behind the easiest method, guys. It's why I tell you guys it's a game changer. It revolutionizes how we create client acquisition because we focus on a standpoint of decisions, bingeable decisions that lead to an easy yes. So this is how you get your leads to sell themselves. And it comes down to 3 key pieces. Number 1, knowing how to win the market. So I want to be completely honest with you. If you are a dime a dozen solution, this is going to be really freaking hard to do. So what we do is we help our clients create what we call innovative gap methodology. So you have a true market of one. So we use our science-backed approach and identify the industry gaps and exactly how your work can solve for that gap in the market. Again, creating a true market of one where you become the only and undeniable solution to your highest value clients and their problems. This is where you're able to create limitless demand. You have clients running to you. You're charging 5 to 10 times more than others in your industry, and clients are happily paying. It's also the key that unlocks all doors and everything else I teach, because once we have our innovative gap methodology, that's now where we apply this inside of our bingeable decision systems. It's how we get our leads to sell themselves, because we create a system that works how people naturally make decisions and mirrors that process in a bingeable miniseries. So think of how Netflix gets you to sit down and binge watch an entire series without taking any breaks, so you become this diehard fan, right? This is what we're doing inside of our bingeable decision processes, and we have 2 of them. Today, we talked about our content system, our weekly content system that works behind the scenes. We also have our bingeable mini series system that works top of funnel when people enter into our world. So what we're doing is we're creating these systems that allow your clients to binge their way to an easy yes. So you have clients who are pre-sold, completely ready to work with you, chomping at the bit to pay before they even get into a sales conversation with you. The third and final piece is actually being able to deliver on the results you promised. Crazy, I know, but the reality is we'd be remiss to say that you could have amazing marketing and incredible sales, but not have a delivery system that matches that allows you to actually drive results for your clients at scale, because this is what actually creates sustainability and creates a reputation that precedes you. So this is why we've created what we call our happy client machine, which teaches our clients how to create the systems and strategies where your offers are working without you needing to be so consistently involved in them. So they're driving amazing results, but they're becoming less reliant on you. So you have clients who are singing your praises to anyone they meet, but you're actually also able to enjoy your lives. So I want you to think about it this way. If you know that you have something so freaking powerful, but you're struggling to bring it all to life, know where those missing pieces are, create a system that actually works. This is what the easiest method does. So rather than you try and figure out whether or not this is how this is going to work for you or what are all the pieces, I want to invite you to the next step, right? Step number one, book a growth optimization call with me. If you've been here, you've heard me talk about this, or this episode did enough for you that you're like, oh my gosh, I get it. Let's book a call with me. You and I are going to sit down. We're going to look at your client acquisition strategy. We're going to look at your business, and I'm going to give you a really honest look at whether or not I believe the easiest method could be something that works for you. And everything we do is customized around your business. So if you want to see how this can work, how this can be applied inside of your business, head on over to easyesleads.com/call and book your call today. But if you're new around here and you're like, hey, Nas, this is cool. I like hearing about the Netflix effect. I want to learn a little bit more about how it works. Then you can binge watch our entire mini series that breaks down this process that we use to get our leads to sell themselves using the Netflix effect. And it's easy. You can go check it out now on demand at thenetflixeffect.com to check out the free mini series. Now, I want to let you walk away with this, understanding that if you walked away with one key thing, it's this, that we are not creating influencer marketing. We're not creating content that's built on attention. We're building content that's based on decisions. And that the easiest way to get people to make easy and fluid and momentum built decisions is through a bingeable decision process. But as always, if this episode has triggered something for you, made you think differently, helped you in any way, I would love if you could take just 1 minute out of your already busy day to rate, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.